एक टाइगर भी अपना धर्म नहीं छोड़ता है, यू नो, अगर वो उसकी जो प्रकृति है, चाहे कोई दूसरा के बोले वो कितना हिंसक है ये, यू नो, दिस इज नॉट अ गुड थिंग ही शुड बी डूइंग, ही शुड बी किलिंग द अदर एनिमल्स एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट, वो नहीं छोड़ेगा अपना, यू नो, वो दैट इज प्रकृति, you know, and that's what he was born with. So that's what he's telling you, that जो तुम्हारा जो मेन थिंग है तुम वही ड्यूटी करो और किसी और की कॉपी मारना शुरू करना बंद कर दो. And the Swami said that in today's world, you know, individuality is going away. People are making Xerox copy. You know, एक स्कूल में जाएंगे तो सभी को वैसी डिग्री, वैसी समथिंग, you know, like एकदम standardize कर दिया है. And human beings are not like that. We are all different. And he went as far as explaining, even our paths for spirituality are different, he said. Even though we may say, oh, मैं ज्ञान मार्ग जाती हूँ, मैं कर्म मार्ग जाती हूँ, मैं ऐसे ब्रॉड तुमने उसका एक लेबल दे दिया, उस ब्रॉड लेवल में भी डिफरेंसेस होता है कि नहीं. ज्ञान मार्ग में किसी को गीता पसंद है, किसी को उपनिषद दूसरे पसंद है, किसी को कुछ, आजकल तो इतने सारे स्वामीज हैं, यू नो, एंड सम पर्सन लाइक्स टू लिसन टू वन पर्सन, अनदर लाइक्स टू लिसन टू अनदर पर्सन, एंड इज एब्सोल्युटली परफेक्टली फाइन, यू नो. एंड in fact he said कि Vivekanand made that statement that there are as many paths as there are people, because each one is an individual and they can take their own path to reach there. I thought that was such a beautiful thing. So there is no, and that tells us many different points, that we should not be criticizing anybody. We should not be worrying about what they are doing, because that could be his path, that person's path. Or, you know, that particular person likes that Swami, wo to bahut bura hai and all that. We don't need to do any of that, because what we need to find out is what I am, what I like, and move in that. And, you know, in my own heart, if I feel that's the right path for me, and I can know my progress internally. Outside, I can pretend to be anything, but I know inside. And if I'm progressing, then that's the right path for me. Kisi ko pasand aaye na aaye, that's not a problem. So even that kind of thing is a little bit included in this, okay? Okay, any other question on this particular point? Go ahead.
Umaji, what's the difference in this verse only between Swadharma and Dharma? Because he's changed the definition of Dharma here as not the law of being, right?
So law of being is
the highest.
Yes, that is the highest. We should never forget that definition, because
right.
that is like the foundation of everything, right?
But in this one.
Yeah. In this particular one, when he's talking about Swadharma, it's talking about your own prakriti, your own nature that you're born with. That's all it means over here.
And Dharma? Because two definitions in here, right? Dharma and Swadharma, right?
Where is the word, which word in this verse?
No, we're talking about generally when you mentioned the Dharma, the highest is law of being. In this verse, you said it's the innate nature, right? Of yourself. So then Swadharma is also, you know, what's your nature?
Yes.
How are you going to? So is there a difference between Dharma and Swadharma in this verse only?
No, I don't think so. He's focusing mainly on Swadharma. I mean, when he's talking about Swadharma, is my nature that I'm born with. That's what he's talking about. So or you can, that culminates into certain duties, because like, that's why this Varna Vyavastha is there, right? According to my nature, they have divided, broadly speaking, okay? That also I keep telling everybody, it's not a fixed box. So Kshatriya to wo 100% वैसा ही है. No, Kshatriya can have Brahmanic quality also a little bit, right? It's all shades, like each one can be different. So when they're talking about the Swadharma over here in this particular verse, they're talking about the nature you're born with. That's what he's talking about. So basically this is what the message is. That in your, understand what your own Swadharma is and use that for Loka Sangraha. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah. So that is basically he's saying that, and because if you choose some other dharma of someone else, copy them, तुम्हारी life hell बन जाएगी.
Right. No, I was just trying to see the difference between the definitions or between the meanings of dharma and swadharma, because I understood earlier. But in this verse, they are differentiating a little bit about dharma.
Yeah, so that's why before even I started, I already mentioned that in Bhagavad Gita, the context is very important.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
even in I think one of the commentaries or one of the explanation of the Swami, he mentioned that when they are, I think Swamiji mentions it, that in this particular verse it is
Yes,
our vasanas. When he's talking
right.
about dharma,
This
is
is
our
the
vasana.
vasana.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. So
You're
then
saying.
that one more point I wanted to bring before we start reading. So to understand this, कि जो मेरी whatever I'm born with the vasanas. Remember I talked about last class that there is the prakriti and there is vikruti and sanskriti. So our job is उसको संस्कृत बनाना. तो अगर तुम्हारा कोई टेंडेंसीज है उसको तुम एनहेंस करो अच्छे से, उसको ना विकृत मत बना दो. That is becomes your duty, and then you serve the world with that. Okay, because if you say oh मेरी ऐसी प्रकृति है तो मैं, कोई बोलेगा अरे मेरी प्रकृति तो चोरी करना है तो मैं चोरी करता हूँ, कोई गलत ले लेगा ना यहाँ पे. That's not what he's talking about. जो तुम्हारा है उसको तुम संस्कृत बनाओ. That is your job, and that's why I think Joe also mentions that ब्राह्मण बोलते हैं हम ब्राह्मण हैं, लेकिन ब्राह्मण के जो ड्यूटीज दिए ना वो करके दिखाओ तब हम ब्राह्मण बनोगे. एंड वो ड्यूटीज चैप्टर 18 में आएगा कि यू आर बोर्न विद सर्टन ब्राह्मणिक क्वालिटी एंड बट इफ यू डोंट एनहेंस इट वो विकृत बन जाएगा. फिर वो ब्राह्मण वो सब बेकार में दूसरों को सताने वाले ब्राह्मण बन जाते हैं. या समझो अर्जुन है, वो क्षत्रिय है, and then he's fighting all the protecting people from the bad guys. अगर क्षत्रिय विकृत बनेगा तो क्या बनेगा, वो गुंडा बन जाएगा, पीटेगा लोगों को. जो लोग गुंडे मुंडे होते हैं बड़े स्ट्रांग होते हैं, they can use their strength for something good, तो वो विकृत बन गए, संस्कृत की जगह गुंडे बन गए. then he's not going to help the society. So that part is also inherent in this verse, that because that's why I said that whatever we learned in the past, we got to build these verses on that foundation. You keep going forward.
Isn't that hard to find out what is your swadharma?
You know what? It's very easy, Kamlaji. Whatever makes you very happy in your heart when you do, that is your swadharma. Very easy to find out, but we suppress it, huh?
Say something.
Yes.
I find that we all have our own dharmas, and wherever our conscience doesn't allow us to do it, that's another way of guiding us.
True.
God has also given us a conscience. Animals, they are born with their dharma, they continue. Only human beings have this special ability, I think.
True. Very, very good point that you brought. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like
Absolutely.
when it goes to spirituality, suppose a person has this nature that they just try to help everybody who comes in their life. They try to extend that help, but spirituality, when it comes to spirituality, they say be very selfish. Just focus on yourself, grow yourself. Once you grow yourself, you reach to that level, then the doors will be open for you, and then you can help the community.
I don't think so. I think that I don't agree with that, because helping people can become your sadhana. Why are you saying that don't help people? Because I love this story. They said कि एक साधु बोला कि एक लेडी थी, हिमालय पे रहती थी, okay? And वो बेसिकली वो क्या करती थी, कोई भी आता था ना उस रास्ते से, उसको बोलती आओ मैं खाना खिलाती हूँ. खाना खिलाती थी सबको. और she said एक दिन वो बीमार हो गई, और तो बीमारी में भी कोई जा रहा था तो बोलते आओ खाना खिलाती हूँ. तो सबने बोला पागल है क्या, बीमार है, गो टेक केयर ऑफ योर सेल्फ फर्स्ट, व्हाई यू आर. इसे नहीं मेरे भगवान आए हैं, हाउ कैन आई नॉट फीड दैट पर्सन. उसका भाव इतना शुद्ध था दैट she that was her sadhana for the moksha. So we cannot say I'm going to just sit and meditate and the whole world I don't care about that. That's not what it's about at all. I'm not undermining if somebody's prakriti is to meditate, वो naturally meditate करेगा. किसी को बोलना नहीं पड़ेगा उसको कि भाई अभी इधर बैठ इधर कर. अगर वो naturally कर रहा है, then that's his prakriti. And somebody else can take lok seva like as a path to spirituality. Another one can take bhakti, whatever you want to take. So there is nowhere in Shastra says that, you got to shut everything and just sit and first get self-realized, then help people. They say, no, whatever, otherwise if the whole Bhagavad Gita it will be against it. Krishna Bhagavan is saying, fight that war and get the self-realization. Can you imagine that? He's saying, go in that war, you might have to kill your guru and that will lead you to self-realization if your attitude is correct behind it, if you do it in the Karma Yoga attitude. That's why they took the worst case scenario in their duty, that if you are steadfast in your duty and you do it without ego, as a lok sangraha, keeping Bhagwan in mind, that becomes your path. And that, what action you do in that has a innumerable variety of it. Innumerable. Some garbage man can do his duty perfectly and become self-realized, So that's what it is.
That's when they just focus on one thing. What if the person has so many, it's very hard for the person to decide because they have multifarious interest and multifarious things give them happiness. Then how to, I know, if you just choose one thing and focus on that, then you can achieve excellence. What if when you have so many interests and so many things,
then you have to contemplate upon it and narrow it down, because nobody can do 200 things and be good at it. We know that. अगर एक चीज में तुम्हारी निष्ठा है और तुम, basically what it is कि I don't know how everybody feels, there are certain things वो काम नहीं लगता हमको, और उसमें अगर कोई चीज आ भी जाए ना, कोई प्रॉब्लम, हम लोग आराम से उसको सह लेंगे. And the best example is a new mother. When the baby is born, all of us have been there. When the baby is born, easily you will sacrifice everything and you're not even going to complain. If somebody else says, oh, don't do this, and no, I want to do this. You don't want to get the baby away from you, and you will do everything. And it doesn't look like a chore. It looks like so much joy, So if there are some thing like that in tune with it, somebody gives you money or not, you will do it. It's like that example I gave about that guru singing. Nobody was giving him any position. He was singing out of joy. वो गाएगा ही. अगर कोई फूल में सुगंध है तो वो खुलेगा ही और सभी को सुगंध देगा ही. कोई उसको सुगंध लेके खुश हो जाए और कोई ना हो, he's not going to care about it. So that kind of job you have to do it as an instrument, because that's what you are good at it, and you are giving that to the world, and don't worry about anything else. We don't have to so much psychoanalyze it and all that, and
I just wanted to add one comment quickly. Kamlaji, when there are so many other interests that a person has, you will find that one or two will become predominant. And for example, in your case, I'm giving an example. You start teaching yoga and you start teaching Sanskrit. There's plenty of other things I'm sure that you have as interests, but these two have become more prominent. So I guess then divinity will lead you to that particular path where you can be most useful to the community or society, I think.
Very good analysis, Meeraji. Okay, let's go to any other question anybody has on this particular verse. We can read now.
So the conclusion for this discussion is that if we connect with divinity, if we find the answer within, then we can find our Swadharma.
Yeah, you can say that. Mm-hmm.
Also, when you choose the connection between teaching Sanskrit or yoga, you yourself know which one is more pleasurable to you and the one which is less. So you are already sorting out of the 100 things you can do, that these two are the prominent, and one is yoga and the other one is teaching. So it happens automatically. It's you are doing it yourself. Because you don't do anything unless you get pleasure out of it.
But your thing comes that I wanted to do these things from the very beginning, but I couldn't do it. I think this is the time which When the proper time comes, you start doing things which is your swadharma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens all the time. That for some reason, some duties, and like Krishna Bhagwan, I always feel that if you really have a strong desire to do something, just leave it in the feet of Lord. He will make sure you will do it. Boliye.
Hey, I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. That leave it to divine guidance. Krishna was the divine guidance for Arjuna, who was encouraging him to do the war because that was his dharma at that time. So sometimes when these things come to you, it is listen to that voice of divinity.
Will guide you, and it will make your rasta also very very sulabh bana dega,
Yes.
right?
Easy.
True. Okay, who wants to read?
I can read.
Go ahead, Kamlaji.
Attachment aversions for the objects of the senses.
Wait.
Above-
कौन सा पढ़ रहे हो आप? We are on verse 35.
Around 35. Sorry.
Better is one's own duty.
Better is one's own duty, though devoid of merit, than the duty of another well discharged. Better is death in one's own duty. The duty of another is fraught with fear, is productive of positive danger. The word dharma in Sanskrit is the most elusive word for translation into English. It is used generally in more than one definite meaning. Terms like righteousness, good conduct, duty, noble quality, and so on are some of them. We have explained it earlier and found how dharma essentially means the law of being of anything in the world. That which determines one man's personality as distinctly different from another's. Yeah, okay. It is very well known, is the texture of the thoughts entertained by him. This texture of his thought is again, in its turn, determined by the pattern of thinking, vasanas, which his mind has gained from its own past. These predetermined channels of thinking created by one's own earlier ways of thinking are called the vasanas. Thus, dharma should be conceived here as the vasanas in our mind, for no other explanation will be correct, since the very discussion now is upon mental control. The word duty used by us in our translation is in this spatial sense to be understood as vasanas.
So here, Meenaji,
and
one second, Kamlaji.
Dharma. These two words have been very badly misunderstood.
Can you just wait for 1 second, Kamlaji? So Meenaji, here is the explanation of that, what you were asking. That in this particular verse, he's talking about the vasanas. And basically, the vasanas, are the one that we are trying to get rid of our vasanas and not create new ones. So, whatever we have learned in the past, also applicable over here now. When you do things in your swadharma for lok sangraha without ego, vasanas gets purgated. And no new ones are created. And then, however, Joe says, a karma mode may you start functioning. So that's another reason
So at this point, we are talking about dharma and swadharma as almost the same thing. That's
Yes.
what I was just getting at.
Yes,
right?
yes. Okay. आगे पढ़िए कमला जी.
Swadharma and Pardharma, these two terms have been very badly misunderstood in recent times. In these days of the Hindu decadence, the Orthodox group wanted to perpetuate the airtight classification of the caste system, has tried to pull down these two terms into its limited application, and have written voluminous commentaries upon them, which have proved more dangerous to our growth than a help in our in social and individual development.
So here we know that how the caste system creates always a huge debates, and we saw in our class also, a few times it happened. So, but it's saying that it's misunderstood. If you understand what Swadharma is, there is no problem. And then the main thing is that within that box also, there could be variety. That's another thing very important. And then how it flows from one to the other also. So there's no fixed thing. You have to see your own nature. what it is.
Swadharma is not the duty which accrues to an individual because of his caste, which is ever a sheer accident of birth. In its right import, Swadharma means the type of vasanas that one discovers in one's own mind. To act according to one's own taste, inborn and natural, is the only known method of living in peace and joy, in success and satisfaction. To act against the grain of one's own vasanas would be acting in terms of pardharma, and that this is taught with danger is very well known.
So I hope
So-
everybody understood what it means now.
Yeah.
That what is our Swadharma. Okay.
Hundreds of examples can be noticed in our own life around as illustrating this scientific truth. A miserable advocate sitting in his deserted office trying to write couplets in glorifying his own poverty, a thwarted doctor sitting in his empty chamber trying to catch an elusive tune, are all not two uncommon sights among us, where circumstances had made them an advocate and a doctor, although they would have been better artists and happier men if they had gained a training in poetry and music.
I tell you, I wish we studied all this Bhagavad Gita before we got married and had children, right? We would guide them so nicely. Because we say, oh, engineer bano, doctor bano, because ये Chinese और Indian को यही लोग accuse करते हैं ना कि सारे के सारे मार पीट के उनको वो बनाना चाहते हैं, चाहे वो बनना चाहे चाहे नहीं बनना चाहे. So I thought it was so funny. Basically, he's saying that वो मक्खियाँ मारेगा वहाँ पे doctor, because he'll never be a good doctor. Or same with the advocate. So if you are good at something, you will flourish. Like anything, the world will benefit, you will earn the money, everything will fall in place if you do according to your Swadharma. It's so beautiful, he is told. But when we don't know, we do so many mistakes.
In the context of Gita, there is a direct message for Arjun. Arjun is born a prince, trained in the art of war, and has exhibited in his life his insatiable thirst for heroism and adventure. Naturally, his Swadharma is that of prince, and that can find fulfillment only in dangerous actions and endless exertions. Perhaps as it was evident in his first chapter, Prince Arjun has gathered during his early education that the life of renunciation and meditation, the life of a Brahman, was nobler than his own life. Therefore, he wanted to run away from the battlefield into the silent caves of meditation. In this stanza, Krishna reminds him that to act according to his own vasanas, even imperfectly, is the right path for his development. It is dangerous to support his own personality, expression, and copy the activities of someone else, even if that person should be living a nobler and diviner life.
It says suppress. It is dangerous to suppress its own personality.
Suppress, yeah. This is very contested stanza. The Pandits have been seeing in it more mischievous meaning than in any other single stanza in Gita. The confusion of thought could have been arisen because of the words in the stanza. They had come up only because of the commentators' attempt to see their own pet ideas in the scriptures.
So that's one of the dangers that, if you just have a certain idea and then you justify, you find some word and try to match it with it. So, you don't want to do that. You have to try to, and that's why we pray to Lord Krishna before we start, that we get the right import of what he's trying to say. So basically, like when he's talk about Swadharma, we have to sit and contemplate of all these points, and then it will become clear that whatever I am born with certain qualities, if I do the job according to it, it will be very good. And if I try to copy somebody, it will be a disaster. That's the conclusion. And Arjun was temporarily moha mein aake, he wanted to copy somebody else. So then,
But what is that? Like, there are a lot of parents who forced their children to become doctors and
उनको
engineers.
बोलो जाके पढ़ो ये भगवद गीता.
And they, no, but they became successful also. Even in the beginning, they were not interested. But
I think only those people can tell, कि whether they are successful or not. Yeah, there are people. जैसे स्वामी जी बोले कि एक उन्होंने कहानी बताई कि एक लड़का था, उसका फादर बोला, वो फादर लॉयर था, तो बोला तेरे को लॉयर ही बनना है. मार पीट के वो लॉयर बना. ही वॉज अ वेरी गुड लॉयर. लेकिन फिर थोड़े देर के बाद ना कोई आता था उसको डॉक्टर बनना था. एक्चुअली लॉयर नहीं बनना था. कोई उसका क्लाइंट आता था ना, तो दिस फेलो अभी डॉक्टर की स्कूल में तो नहीं जा सकता, तो ही स्टार्टेड स्टडीइंग होम्योपैथी. बिकॉज होम्योपैथी यू कैन रीड इट ऑन योर ओन एंड बिकम होम्योपैथ डॉक्टर. तो कोई आता था, बोलता मुंह खोलो, और फिर ना दवाई डाल देता था उसके मुंह में, बिकॉज ही लव डूइंग दैट. सो इसे धीरे 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 फिर उसके फादर की डेथ हो गई. फादर चला गया, ही हैड नो प्रेशर, तो उसने अपना वकील का वो बंद करके और उसने होम्योपैथी क्लिनिक खोल लिया. Just a dristant, or it's maybe a true story that he came across. So I think that Kamalaji, don't too much psychoanalyze about what others do. This is just a guide he's telling you. That hey, this is what it is, and this is how you should do it. अभी कौन क्या करता है, उनका reason क्या है, we don't know. Yeah, there could be a situation that the child, I told you, the children themselves get confused. Because friend is becoming what you call an engineer, that's why I want to become an engineer. Oh, I read engineers make a lot of money, that's why I want to become an engineer. True. And the parent might know the child's real talents and might encourage. That also can happen. So the confusion can happen with the parent's mind, confusion can happen in children's mind, confusion can happen in anybody's mind. But if you study this, hopefully you will make the right choices. That's all it is. No guarantee of any kind, but hopefully if I don't even know this, I'm more likely to make wrong choices. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment.
Success and happiness are two different things. A lot of people have money, people think they are successful, but they are not actually happy.
True.
No, but I have one comment. Like, the moment you are born, which is not in your hand, decides, what you are going to do. It starts from there. So, according to, I know Aurobindo talked about it, that when somebody died in the previous life, they want to take another birth based on their desires and their karmas they are left. And they see number of lights blinking, which are the possibilities they can, and they pick one of them. So one of the reasons, you are born in a particular family is because of the past karmas. And from there, the whole thing starts. So when the parents say, let's say parents are very wealthy, they don't care you become engineer or doctor. In fact, if you see that one movie that, some movie IIT guy, he hired a guy to do his degree for him, because he was so wealthy. Three Idiots, that movie. So they never thought you would become doctor or engineer. Somebody who is born poor, they want to grow the standard of their family, they want you to do that. So all of that is driven from where you are born. And then it goes on. And after a while, then you get that knowledge from within you. And then you say, I like this, I don't like this. And that's when this thing is coming in, But if you do in a karma mode, then you wouldn't have all these issues.
I think this is a kind of a little revolutionary idea. What we all can kind of churn upon it, think about it, and then we can. After that, if you still have questions, then we can take it up. If you guys don't mind, can we move to our Kathoupanishad? Okay, what I'm gonna do is stop this here. I'm gonna do the prayer one more time. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karva Vahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. Okay, so I think we are at verse 6. We did verse 5 last time. And correct? Okay. So 5 में हमने देखा कि Nachiketa was sitting and contemplating that, I'm not such a bad kid, and if my father has told me, given me to death, तो उसमें जरूर कोई अच्छा काम होगा, right? That's the whole, we hashed out the whole thing. So the next verse is verse 6. So this Upanishad, again to remind you, very few words, and there are a lot of things that are not said. And there is another, this Upanishad comes in another place in the Vedas, and उसमें थोड़ा सा और detail दिया हुआ है. So they said कि वहाँ से भी लिया है वो. So in between lines में जो आता है वो सब Swamis and Shankaracharya ji, and Shankaracharya is a great authority on this. So they go by his explanation and all that, what happened. So just imagine the situation when the son said, I want to go to death, the father freaked out and said, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean it, blah, blah, blah. And the son said, hey, wait a minute. Maybe there is something good in it. And also remember, the son saw the father do something wrong. Father was doing a ritual by not keeping the sanctity of it, by giving the cows and all that. So तुम ऐਵੇਂ कर रहे हो, मतलब, you are cheating because you want some immediate pleasure in your life. इसीलिए तो कर रहा था वो कि भाई अच्छी गाय मैं अपने लिए रख लेता हूँ, बुरी दे देता हूँ, what I don't need. He's not thinking of his vision has become narrow. He's not thinking of the whole world. And the son now is giving him a mini discourse here in this verse 6, telling him why we should not compromise on our values for immediate gain, because the world is so transient that it is just not worth it to compromise dharma. And then it also brings to a question that Meeraji had asked the other day. So, and something like, hey, if I'm born again, I have to do everything again. But spiritual thing, you don't have to do everything again. That is a promise given by Krishna Bhagwan in Bhagavad Gita, and all the Upanishads back and Krishna Bhagwan ne jo bhi bole Upanishad sa kai bola hai. Again and again it comes, dharma is the one that goes with you. So when you die, your body is dropped and all that, and when you are born again, तुम्हारा जो worldly चीजें तुमको वापस सीखना पड़ेगा. How to walk, how to eat, how to go to school, and पैसे कैसे कमाना. But जो धर्म की बात है ना, जो what understanding of the spiritual thing, whatever you have gained in this life, it will stay with you, and then you make progress from there. And that's why you see the difference in the spiritual level of people. There are people who are 90 years old act like they are 2-year-old in their behavior, by doing, tantrums and this and that and never thinking about God. And they're 5-year-old who are like totally sattvic and in tune. And here the example is Nachiketa, 9-year preteen. They didn't give a fixed age, and he is so wise because he has done the sadhana probably in his previous life about it. So keep all that in mind. So here is a verse: Anupashya yatha purve pratipashya tatha pare sasyam iva martyah pachyate sasyam iva ajayate. Anupashya means to remember. Yatha is how. Purve is our forefathers who came before, basically, people who have come before. Pratipashya means consider. Tatha is thus. Apare, others. But here he is mentioning sages and holy men. That's what he means. Sasyam iva, like corn. And here yahan corn bola hai, but one of the Swami was explaining that it can be anything, something that grows in the fields. They've taken the example of corn. Martyaha, mortal. Pachyate, decays. Hindi mein word bolte hain na, pach jana. Get cooked. Khatam ho jana. Decays or ripens and falls. That's why it's given ripens and falls. Sasyam, corn. Eva, just like it. Ajayate, born. Puna is again. So he's saying that, basically saying that we all are like born as a, जैसे corn आता है ना field में, फिर कॉर्न पक जाता है तो उसको हार्वेस्ट कर देते हैं, फिर उसको काट पीट के निकाल के और फिर दूसरा कॉर्न आ जाता है वहाँ पे. सो बेसिकली ही इज सेइंग हम लोग भी सब ऐसी हैं. एंड वी डोंट हैव टू गो टू फार. यू सी कबीर के दोहे देख लो, बोलते लाइफ इज लाइक अ बबल दैट इट जस्ट फुट करके खत्म हो जाती है. और इट्स लाइक अ क्या क्या है, आई एम नॉट श्योर, बट बेसिकली इट्स लाइक एक जंगल में कोई सूखी घास के समान है. आग लगी, अब वो खत्म हो गया एकदम. So if you see the bigger picture, this life is very transient. That's what he's reminding him. Life is very transient. So you have to learn to be steadfast in your dharma, in your righteousness. It's not worth compromising on it, because everything, whatever you earn and do everything you have to drop it over here and go. Only dharma goes with you. So he is so mature, and he's trying to tell his father through this verse that, and he's saying dharma is, how do we find out about dharma? From Vedas or, Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad. Who has said these Vedas? It's the Vani of Bhagwan, who is immortal himself. So if his immortal person is giving you this knowledge, that is a lot more important to hold on to that than to worry about piddly little things in this world, because they are very transient. So, and like Meena ji was, I think you listened to Tejomayanand ji, he was talking about, we get so anxious about things, right? So he's saying we get anxious because we lose sight of that bigger picture. And what is a bigger picture? Everything is transient in this world. And there is one statement or one saying that Swami Chinmayanand ji says is, change is the changeless law of this world. Very, very profound thing. So, change is a changeless law. Everything changes. So he said कि लोग अभी बोलते हैं ओ ये पेंडेमिक का क्या होगा and all that, anxiety होती है सबको, they give and come and ask the Swamis. So he's saying कि ठीक है, Tejomayanand is very practical. So he said, I can understand a little bit of anxiety, no problem. But अगर 0 to 10 के scale पे ना, you're not allowed to have more than 3, he said. If you have more than 3, you have a problem. And then he said कि how we will get over this anxiety if we think about Bhagwan more. And then you will understand, because that this is a transient thing. तो pandemic आएगा, वो जाएगा भी. कब जाएगा तो वो तो साइंटिस्ट और किसी को भी नहीं मालूम कब जाएगा, मगर जाएगा जरूर. So that's what he's telling in this key. And then Tejomayanand ji actually said, he went a little further in this. He said ki, even if worldly people, your own relations, we get so attached to them and all that, right? So he said, once you die, they can only come up to cremation ground. Beyond that, they're not going to go with you. Finished. So he's saying what goes beyond that is your own dharma goes beyond that. And dharma, here you can say that whatever you have spiritually gained is going to go with you. So that's why you need to stick with it. And then Tejomayanand ji also brought this point. He's saying this lions ka bola ki lions also don't leave their dharma, and the same thing had come in Bhagavad Gita, right? The lions also is not going to aap kyun chhod rahe ho apna dharma? Why you're getting swayed by this? And now if you have said it that I should go and meet with death, then maybe that's what I need to do, because that is my dharma now as a student, because it's come out of a guru's mouth. So both ways you can look at it, that he was reminding his father that he was compromising and it's not worth it, and that I should go forward. And I think that what Tejomayanand ji said, that this was a boy who was like, had the kya bolna chahiye, qualification to gain the knowledge. That's another point in this Upanishad, that to gain that highest knowledge, what are the pre-qualification required? These are the pre-qualifications: Shraddha, patience, contemplation, sticking on the dharma. So if we suddenly jump to get the knowledge, it may not stick to us. A lot of question, confusions, and all these things might come. So he's saying we have to develop these things. If I'm not understanding Shastras, then I have to develop these qualities to be able to. So that, another way we can look at this is that it's coming through a story form, and it looks like just a story of a kid, but actually it is giving you a very deep message that, these are the pre-qualifications required to gain this highest knowledge. Okay? And then Tejomi Anand ji says, when जब बोलते हैं ना कि फादर शेर है तो ये सवा शेर निकला इसका बेटा. तो जब फादर ने सुना इसकी बात तो फादर की तो आंखें एकदम खुल गई. बोला मैं I cannot argue with you. Okay, you go ahead with whatever you want to do. And then he says, Tejomi Anand ji said that it kind of stops and you don't know how he went there. But in one of the other parts in the Vedas, they said a invisible voice guided him to death. Okay, to go there. How he went, that is not so important. But, that he had a conversation with death, that is more important. But this is how it led to it. Okay, so that's basically this. And anybody has any question? Okay, who wants to read? Where's the book? Yeah, Miraji. It's verse 6 and it says...
Accurate. Consider also how he... Yes, verse 6 and page 14 in this Kathoupanishad. Like corn decays the mortal, and like corn is born again. This stanza is directly addressed to the father.
आपका वॉइस कट रही है. सॉरी मीरा जी आपकी वॉइस कटती है.
Sorry. Then I'll let somebody else read that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's internet connection. I'm
Yes.
sitting outside.
Who has a strong connection and has a book, please read it. Sushil ji, Meena ji. Any one of you?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Remember how our forefathers acted. Consider also how others now act. Like corn decays the mortal, and like corn is born again. This stanza is directly addressed to the Father by the Son. It contains in the essence the wisdom of all the Shrutis and the cream of the entire Sanatana Dharma. The stanza indicates the inevitable philosophy of rebirth, which is the very backbone of the Hindu faith. This ought to be sane conclusion arrived at by every honest thinker if he were to analyze the wherefrom and the wherefore of life. Had it not been for the karma done in the past, there should not have been so much differences among those who are living now. A boy born to a leper has to suffer from his very birth the sorrows of this despicable disease. At the same time, elsewhere, in the place a child is born to wear the crown and to enjoy the kingdom. Why? If we are to assume that this life has started directly from him, then we will be forced to assume that the Creator, in his omnipotence and might, is a tyrant, and like any mortal king, dispenses his favors according to his whim and fancy, sometimes justly and often unjustly, always partial and inconsistent. He is no God at whose feet a devotee can offer his heart of love in total surrenderance and devotion. And there is no religion in the world wherein we have the conception of a God who is cruel, partial, unjust, and mad in his lustful powers.
So here, I guess in this class, nobody needs to convince us that there is reincarnation. But, the reason all this, he had to give such deep explanation about this over here, because when Swamiji was writing the commentary and all, when he came to America, a lot of non-Indians followed him too. and they for them to get convinced about reincarnation is a little bit difficult task, but I actually personally I have met many Christians who believe in reincarnation. In 2 seconds they tell me they 100% believe in it, so but anyway, that's why this deep explanation he gave. So basically he's saying that no other scientific fact kind of is as conducive to our life, because otherwise how can you explain that when we are even likes and dislikes, देख लो कि खाली ऐसे ही chance से तो नहीं है, it is definitely connected. So in that big spectrum of our entire existence, one life is just a little incident. So उसको हम इतना selfish ढंग से अगर देखेंगे तो हमारा ही नुकसान होएगा basically. And then one point that I forgot to mention, which is going to be in this verse, is look at the people of the past, how they acted, and look at the great people who are acting now, because what it is that intuitively sometimes we don't know what is the right thing to do, because we get swayed by our likes and dislikes. That's why the Shastras and the explanation of Swamis and all that is so important, because somebody who has already reached that higher state and now they are explaining how to do it. And so Nachiketa is telling his father, look at all the great people,